mortgage or rent payments, up to an unbelievable £20,000. We'll also boost that by a further £5,000. So you really could have some fun in the coming year. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Now, the National Memorial to Queen Elizabeth II will include a new bridge in St James's Park, designed by Norman Foster.
Yes, the translucent bridge will be inspired by the tiara the Queen wore on her wedding day.
But let's get more now from St James's Park with our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. Cameron, what's the memorial going to be like?
Good afternoon, Tom and Emily. Yes, the wait is finally over. We have the final design from the renowned architect Lord Foster, who famously once criticised the King for his views on architecture. But of course, today it's all about honouring Queen Elizabeth II and her legacy. On that theme, at Marlborough Gate, which is the big gate you see behind me, which overlooks the Mall, that's going to be renamed Queen Elizabeth II Place. And there is, according to the artist impression, going to be a big statue of Queen Elizabeth II riding a horse overlooking the Mall. Of course, incredibly poignant because she had a deep love of all things equine. Incredibly poignant, of course, as well, significant love between Prince Philip and the late Queen. It's going to apparently, according to the architect, or hinted by the architect, light up at night as well, which is meant to symbolise all the diamonds that were part of that tiara. And the Queen famously also gave it to her granddaughter, loaned it to her granddaughter, Princess Beatrice, for her wedding in 2020. And then we come to the final part of St James's Park's Queen Elizabeth II's memorial, and that is going to be right here at the other end of the park, overlooking Birdcage Walk, going to be renamed Prince Philip Gates, because a new statue of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip is going to be erected at the other side of St James's Park. It's meant to be them, according to the artist's impressions, in their younger years.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning, it's 10 a.m. on Saturday the 2nd of August, live across the UK. This is, of course, Saturday Morning Live.
Yes, it is. Well, nearly 1 million NHS free passes covering everything from prescriptions to dental work have been handed to asylum seekers in 5 years. People are asking this morning, who's the NHS really working for?
And the Metropolitan Police has released a policing plan for potential protests set to take place outside hotels housing asylum seekers this weekend. That's, of course, as Donald Trump's administration raised concerns about free speech in Britain. That's after a Whitehall unit was accused of spying on critics of migrant hotels.
The US president deploys 2 nuclear submarines towards Russia. As the war of words escalates, President Trump said the threat of Russia couldn't be ignored.
We just have to be careful. And a threat was made, and we didn't think it was appropriate, so I have to be very careful. So I do that on the basis of safety for our people.
Cabinet Office is under fire after announcing its new internship scheme. Should those opportunities be ring-fenced for the working class, or should the best people for the job get the job? That's going to be our big debate for the day.
Crack, it's all about the song, it's all about the sea, it's all about culture and tradition, Ulster Scots traditions, dancing, singing. It looks like it's going to be a great weekend.
And here's a tongue twister. Portaferry's Sea Shanty Festival returns with 4 jam-packed days of folk tunes, boat races and pirate fun. Dougie Beatty is in Strangford Lough.
We're here at the Sounds and Sails Festival, where sea shanty singing has attracted groups from right across the British Isles to entertain. Take it away.
Yes,
I wouldn't be attempting singing at this time in the morning, about you?
No, I don't think so.
Just
no.
in the shower, have a little sing-song in the shower, that's for me.
We've got the biggest stories, of course, boldest opinions and liveliest debates over the next 2 hours. I'm Tatiana Sanchez.
And I'm Alex Armstrong, and your weekend starts right now. What are you doing this weekend? What you got going on?
I couldn't possibly say. I have an eventful weekend coming up. I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, all right. Well, unfortunately for me, I am working a double shift today. Saturday morning live and Saturday 5. You want to tune in at 6 p.m. for that.
Yeah, the people just can't get enough of you, can they?
I mean, I'm working to the bone at the moment, but hope you're enjoying it nonetheless. But we've got lots of coming up, haven't we, today on the show?
We do. We want to hear from you as well, and so send us your views and post your comments, as always, by visiting gbnews.com/your say.
But before we get stuck in and kickstart your weekend, Bethany Elsie has all your news headlines.
Thank you. Good morning. Your top stories from the GB newsroom. President Donald Trump has ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in appropriate regions in response to comments by former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev. Mr. Trump described his comments as highly provocative and ordered the submarines to move just in case it was any more than a threat. The spat between the two came after the US president warned Russia on Tuesday it had 10 days to agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine or face tariffs. The former president, who is now deputy chair of Russia's Security Council, said US threats of tough sanctions were a step towards war. The financial regulator says it will be working through the weekend to decide whether an industry-wide compensation scheme is needed after the Supreme Court ruling on car finance. Lenders have for now avoided having to pay compensation to millions of drivers after the Supreme Court ruled they are not liable for hidden commission payments. A 76-year-old man is due to appear in court this morning accused of child cruelty offences after children fell ill at a summer camp in Leicestershire. John Rubin from Nottingham has been charged with 3 counts of willful ill treatment of a child. 8 children from the camp near Melton Mowbray were taken to hospital as a precaution and have all since returned home. Tesla has been ordered to pay more than $200 million to the family of a young woman who was hit by an electric car on autopilot. The woman was killed and her boyfriend injured after the car crashed into their parked car at more than 60 miles an hour. A jury in Florida found the electric car company partly to blame for the incident, which happened in 2019. Elon Musk's company says the driver, who admitted he was distracted by his phone before the incident, was at fault and said it would appeal. The Metropolitan Police says there'll be an increased officer presence near a hotel housing migrants in Islington today, as demonstrations are expected. The force has imposed restrictions on a protest and counter-protest, which is planned outside the Thistly City Barbican Hotel in Islington in North London. Protests are also expected in Newcastle outside the Newbridge Hotel. And half of the 6 million people waiting for NHS treatment in England have had no further health care since first being referred by their GP. 1 million of those unseen patients have already gone more than 18 weeks without receiving any care. MBI Health says the problem has gone unchallenged for too long, adding that delays in making a first assessment can lead to late diagnosis, worsening symptoms and pressure on emergency services. You're up to date. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Bethany, thank you very much and welcome back to Saturday Morning Live with Alex Armstrong and me, Tatiana Sanchez.
Yes, the NHS has been accused of handing out free passes to almost 1 million asylum seekers over the past 5 years. Figures reveal an array of NHS services, including free prescriptions, dental care and travel to appointments were issued between 2019 and 2024.
The revelation comes after Donald Trump raised concerns about free speech following reports that Whitehall was allegedly spying for those who were critical of migration.
Yes, with us now is the opinion and features editor at City AM, Alice Denby. Alice, thank you so much for joining us. And many Brits at home will be watching today, wondering why they aren't being prioritised for things like this. We've got a huge NHS backlog. Should Brits be concerned that they're at the back of the queue?
Yeah, absolutely. I can only imagine the frustration your viewers have reading headlines like this. They just keep coming. You know, migrant boat arrivals are up 50% this year. Just yesterday, there was a story about record numbers of foreigners in prison. And frankly, these numbers are going to keep going this way. We're going to keep having these terrible headlines that are so frustrating for people until we somehow break the link between coming to Britain, setting foot on your soil here, and immediately getting access to hotel accommodation, to NHS care, you know, to jobs in the black market. The fact is we need a proper deterrent to stop this problem and to cut the numbers of illegal migrants coming here so that we can refocus resources on British citizens.
Yeah, you know, 1 million free passes. What is a free pass for those at home who may not have ever heard of it? I mean, I hadn't actually heard of a free pass until this morning when I read this story. So what does that mean? What does that actually do? And what does it give to those that receive it?
I think it means essentially someone who is an asylum applicant, so they're sort of waiting for their citizenship claim to be processed, can get access to free NHS services, which includes, as I say, things like dental care, also things like wigs, apparently. Didn't really know why that's a priority. So yeah, it's someone who's not a British citizen but can still access NHS services.
Yeah, and with the NHS backlog at what I would have thought near record highs, we've seen appointments have gone up. So the government are celebrating they've added 7 million new appointments in the last year. Is that any respite for people at home worried that they're not going to get see their doctor or get their hospital appointment on time if they think they might be at the back of the queue to an asylum seeker perhaps?
I mean, I wouldn't have thought so. There are still something like 7 million people on the waiting list. And of course, last week we had 5 days of doctors' strikes, which have put things back severely. There's also rumours of nurses going on strike and other hospital workers too. So I think we are really going to have a proper summer of discontent here with strikes on the one hand and mass protests about illegal migration too. This is going to be a really, really tricky summer for the government.
Yeah, and on those doctors' strikes, I think a lot of people will be worried, particularly those resident doctors, also known as junior doctors. What sort of pressure will that add on top of the 1 million people that are claiming these free passes onto the NHS and other services?
Well, of course, strikes place huge pressure on the NHS. I mean, they were ordered to continue working as normal as possible during the strikes. Consultants were stepping in, but of course the BMA opposed that. They wanted to be only providing emergency care. I do think the BMA have questions to answer here about putting extra pressure on the NHS with completely absurd pay demands. I mean, frankly, 29% is outrageous. And we've seen how when the doctors already had sort of 20% last year, other NHS workers like nurses are thinking, well, where's my 20% pay rise? And that's totally understandable. But I mean, that's really what's putting the pressure on the NHS, as well as increased migration pressures.
Yeah, Alice, I was going to ask very briefly as well, how many more doctors and nurses do you believe we would need to recruit in order to fill these backlogs and take on all those 1 million extra people? Of course, we had those record-breaking figures earlier this week, 700,000 more people moved to the United Kingdom, at least in 2023 to 2024. Is there some real concern here that we are just flooding the country with people and we cannot keep up? We're not building new hospitals after all, are we?
Yeah, and I'm not sure I have a figure for how many more doctors we need. Capital spending is certainly a big problem for the NHS. You know, it gets more and more money pumped into it, which then goes to pay rises or frontline services rather than actually building the new hospitals and the infrastructure we need. Housing, another huge problem. We simply haven't kept up with building new houses with the increase in the population. So yeah, I mean, yes, we do just, our country is not fit for purpose at the moment, sort of structurally speaking, and can't cope with mass increases in the population. Was it something like 2 million people over 2 years? You know, a city the size of Birmingham. Unless you're building new roads and houses at the same time, how are you supposed to cope?
I couldn't agree more with you. Alice Denby there, opinion and features editor at City AM. Thank you for joining us on that breaking story there. Well, we've got a right to reply from the NHS, Tatiana.
We do, and just before we go to that, of course, Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, said it's just another example of another illustration of the cost of illegal migration. So I suppose to you, the viewer, you can always send us your views on how better to spend the money.
Yeah, there we go.
And for that right of reply now, the NHS is legally, they said, required to provide healthcare services to asylum seekers, including access to help with health costs through the NHS Low Income Scheme.
Right, well, moving on. The Met Police has released a policing plan for potential protests set to take place outside hotels housing asylum seekers this weekend. Police say that their approach will be to protect the right to peaceful protest, but to intervene decisively where offences take place.
The operation comes as the government has approved a 4.2% pay boost for police officers in England and Wales, backed by £120 million of extra funding from the Home Office.
Oh, joining us now is former Scotland Yard Detective Chief Inspector Mike Neville. Mike, perhaps a difficult time if you are a police officer, not just in places like London or Essex, but up and down the country. What sort of measures are the police taking to ensure that there is a right for peaceful protest, which there always should be, but to ensure if there's any bad behaviour that it's seen too quickly?
Well, there'll be a national coordination of all the resources, so the forces can share different assets, so you can move people around as needed. But this is really a national event now. There's a protests outside asylum seeker hotels across the country. But I think the really important thing is the change of attitude. And I've seen this in the police myself. And I think this has come from the very top. I think it's from 10 Downing Street. If you look at the policing style at Southport, the Prime Minister was quick to condemn anybody, whether they were peacefully protested or not, as far-right thugs who deserve to go to prison straight away. And the people who held up their anti-racist placards, they were the goodies. And we've seen accusations of two-tier policing, and then we had the debacle of Essex police using their carrier vans as some kind of taxi service. Now we have a whole change in the sense that it's now that Angela Rayner's come out and she sees what the problem is and the like. And I just think that what in the last year at Southport is that the Keir Starmer's aides were telling him that being strong and firm was a good thing, and these were far-right thugs. And the whole, in a year, it's changed. Now, these people, this is seen as a vote loser, that we've now had statistics out about foreign offenders and the levels of sexual crimes, the actual fact that somebody at Epping was charged, one of the asylum seekers. So I think the main story here is there will be a change in policing. And I saw it myself after the 2011 riots. There was almost an attitude that, oh, we'll sweep up and we'll deal with those people arrested and then we'll move on. Then the commissioner of the time was invited into Downing Street and he came back and suddenly we were arresting everybody who'd done anything wrong. And so I do think the police tactics are being driven from Downing Street.
Yeah, Mike, just of course, just to make sure we've got balance here, Essex Police do deny busing people into those protests, and the Migrant, of course, in that issue denies it too. There's no doubt they bust them out. That's why I avoided the in or out. Sure, we just have to clarify. You know what it's like. We have to clarify. Tatiana.
So, yeah, Mike, police are under so much pressure at the moment. So what kind of difference would you say a pay rise would make to their job?
Well, I don't know, really. I never joined the police to make money. You know, I was a soldier first, and then I was a police officer. And I don't think I challenge anybody who becomes a police officer, a firefighter, or a nurse to make money. You join the service before self. It was never an issue with me, as long as there was enough money on the table. And I always find whenever you got a pay rise, the tax and stuff just wiped it out anyway. So it made no real odds. Of course, you get more pay as you get promoted and the like. But I think it's right that police officers are recognised. The police do get criticised heavily, and there's a real crisis in trust and confidence in the police, and the senior officers to blame. But every day there's young police officers who are facing people with knives and guns and helping us and making sure that we live safe. So it's right they get a pay rise, but I think everybody realises that there isn't any money. You know, that's the real issue. Well, sure, I totally agree. We are scrapping around. I know the Treasury is scrapping around to find where it can make cuts, let alone spending more money and giving out more pay rises. But, Mike, when it comes to, you touched on something there that I wanted to speak about, which is the authority police have now. There is such little trust, it seems, in policing in the country. What needs to change in order for us to get that back? there really needs to be change in senior leadership. It's the senior leaders who've created this, the two-tier policing, and politicians as well. I can't see much change because the Labour Party in power, they see people on the Liberal left as the goodies, and anybody who challenges that as the baddies. But from a policing point of view, I remember 2 decades ago being told, oh, we must be more diverse, we must have more black or Asian, we must have more women, we must have more this and that. And the police focus went away from catching criminals to achieving this. And, do you know, I've never had anybody say to me, I didn't like the sex, sexuality or colour of the officer who came to help me. What they say is I got a rubbish service. You know, I was burgled, my house, no one turned up to help me, my car was broken into under a CCTV camera, no one helped me do that. One of my family was assaulted on the bus and the police didn't do anything about that. Yeah. That's the criticism. I think the police they've absolutely been taken over by a sort of a liberal agenda, and it needs to get back to how it was, because the British police were seen as the best in the world. You know, it's a tragedy for me. I was proud to be a Scotland Yard detective. Now I have colleagues who don't tell people that they're in the police, and that's a real shame. Yeah, that is a shame, Mike. It really is. And, well, thank you, Liz, and thank you very much for coming and joining us today to talk about this topic. I'm sure we'll be discussing the police up and down the country many more times in the future. Well, still to come, should internships in the civil service be ring-fenced for the working class? Or should the best person for the job get the job? We'll be debating that.
But next, we'll have all of the top stories for today, including President Trump moving 2 nuclear submarines closer to Russia. This is Saturday Morning Live here on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Dan was one of the victims of the attack, and he was just, you know, within touching distance from the leading suicide bomber. And when that bomb went off, it killed 6 people.
It's still really surreal. It's still a kind of strange thought to realise that I was right in the middle of what happened that day. And even though it's 20 years, it still feels like yesterday. Yeah. The pain and the emotional torment that goes with that is just as fresh now as when it just happened.
Mm. And when you think back to that morning, because you've written a book about that day and your experience since, you actually were considering not going into work that day.
Yeah, my whole story of 7/7 is what I kind of term as sliding door moments. There's so many opportunities that were presented to me to do something different, or to stick to my normal routine and not step outside of that. And yeah, there's countless times where if I would have made a different decision, then I wouldn't have been on that train at that time. If I'd have got up on time, if I hadn't missed my stop, there's so many things that I can think back on and think, if only I've done this, if only I've done that. But it serves no purpose now because what's happened has happened.
You were horrendously injured, but people died on that bus that day.
Yeah, I mean, from the area of the train that I was on when the bomb went off, I'm the only one that survived. They killed everybody around me. And that's incredibly tough to live with, to know that you survived something that everybody around you didn't. And I was pretty much laying in and amongst dead bodies and body parts for about an hour and 40 minutes before I was taken out the tunnel.
And what do you remember about the murderer?
I think the most terrifying thing about it is just how calm he was. There was no fear, there was no hesitation, and the most scariest thing of all was he just looked like everybody else.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Yes, we did it.
Thank you for making us Britain's #1 news channel. We couldn't have done it without you.
Absolutely not. It is down to each and every single one of you who chooses to watch us, to listen to us, and to be a part of what we're trying to do. Thank you.
This is just the beginning. Britain's #1 news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live. Tatiana, look, so I came across this really great story in the week. Tatiana, do you believe in aliens?
I do, actually.
Yeah. So
Why do you ask?
OK, yeah, good question. So there's this big rock, or some sort of thing, floating through our solar system at record speeds. I don't know if any of you knew about a Mawa. This is a whole other thing. It was another rock that just came weird trajectory through our solar system, and some Harvard scientists are saying it might be an alien spaceship. There you go. Maybe they can come and save us. Not from the show, just save the country. Yeah, that's it. That's the story.
Is that what's been on your mind?
It's been on my mind. It's been on my mind.
You know, I think I do believe in aliens because I think the universe is so big that would we really think it's just us here?
Yeah, it can't be. Surely.
Surely it can't.
Let us know what you think. Pop your thoughts into your say. But anyway, now to look through the top stories of the day. Not alien stuff, I think, but we're delighted to be joined by broadcaster Lynn May and former Labour advisor Matthew Larza. OK,
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Where should we start?
Well, I think this is a really interesting story at the top here, Matthew. NHS should be more like Deliveroo. Tony Blair's told his mate Keir Starmer.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tony Blair has his institute, which pumps out ideas, which the government can choose to listen to if it wants to. I think it may well listen to this. And it has said that the NHS app's current capabilities are clunky, not available to all. And instead, we need an NHS app that really is the gateway to all services. I think particularly what they're saying is at the moment the NHS app isn't joined up, so you don't get all your test results in one place. You can't order, some practices you can't order your repeat prescriptions. You have to go to a different app. And so what it's saying is that it should take a leaf out of the book of giants like Deliveroo or Amazon and be really transformative in the way that people do it. It says apparently they've said that if they follow the example, if the NHS app was to follow the example set by similar apps in Singapore and California, it could free up 29 million GP appointments.
Wow. Lynn, a lot of people will be looking at this for two different reasons,
Your
right?
face.
Yeah. I think you might be one of them. First of all, because it's Tony Blair, right?
Yeah. Does anyone want to hear from Tony Blair?
Well, that's a good question.
Unless he's in The Hague.
No, but this is quite an interesting idea, right? Because I've used the NHS app and it takes me to a website that I then have to book for my GP, which is closed at certain hours, so I can't actually book after like 6 p.m. Right? So if you've got home from work, you're like, I'm going to book a GP appointment, and you can't do that, and then it's just all a bit fragmented. So is there a good point to be made?
I think it's it's public sector, isn't it? It's government funded, and nothing government funded seems to work properly.
Always the way.
But I think, there's something to be said for definitely having a bit more of an app that is workable and modern, and currently it isn't whatsoever. However, when we think of Deliveroo and those sorts of apps, we think of quickly delivering something, food, and it makes it sound like, are we going to have a nurse at our doorstep if I've got a cough this morning? That's not realistic, especially when we see doctors striking, we see nurses striking. So there's no point in having this fantastic technological infrastructure relating to the NHS when there's not the workers there to facilitate that need.
Yeah.
At the same time, do you think it's a good or a bad thing being able to just do something on an app than having to sit on a phone and wait for someone to answer your call?
I think if the NHS is going to survive, it really has to meet patient expectations. I think that's why the comparison with the things we all use every day, like our banking app or Deliveroo or Amazon, we're used to being able to do things with the touch of a button. If the NHS can't match that, then maybe we're going to fall out of love with the NHS.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they see this being compared to Deliveroo, they think you're going to get a doctor on the beat. But,
don't get too excited.
But the health secretary...
Or a refund if your appointment runs out.
Yeah, or a refund. But the health secretary did say, didn't he, wants doctors to be going door to door. So maybe this might not be too far from it.
Absolutely. And also, because one of the big things in their response to the report from Tony Blair, the Department for Health has said, look, we want the NHS, in their 10-year plan they put out, we want the NHS app to be even having linking up with wearable tech. So your steps will be talking to your NHS app. Who knows?
I'm not... Do you know what? I don't agree with Tony Blair on a lot of things, Matthew, but this one I'm not too...
You agree? You like the sound of it?
I like the sound of it. I think we need to be more... We need to embrace technology.
I think we need to get the basics right. We haven't even got the basics right.
That's true.
Some people worry it's a gateway to a digital ID card, which is sort of mentioned in there because the Singapore example has...
I don't know why people are afraid of that. We have passports, driver's license.
I agree, but...
Yeah.
We know some people who are.
Right. Lynn, have you been a little worried because President Trump has supposedly sent nuclear submarines toward Russia, allegedly?
Well, we're seeing a complete change in geopolitics where we seem to be at tenterhooks of things happening and conflicts in the world. Like we saw Pakistan and India, we've seen the issues in Ukraine, Gaza, Israel. And I think, to be honest, it's what the American people want. They want to see muscle. They want to see strength from Trump. And, you know, if Deputy Chair Security, Dmitry Medvedev, is going to come out and tweet something, you know, our capabilities, our nuclear capabilities are as such that we could do some real damage.
Yeah.
Trump, if he didn't do something, he would come across as extremely weak. So we hope that nothing's going to happen. The US don't want anything to happen with regards to nuclear issues or war. No one in the West does. I know Russia doesn't. It's not in anyone's interest.
Absolutely not.
But we still have to see people like Putin, people like Trump, they're based on their strength. So he had to do something.
Yeah, Matthew, is Donald Trump having a bit of a reality check? Because when he was running for office, and the very second time, should I say, he said, I'm going to stop this war in 24 hours.
Yes, absolutely.
All that sort of stuff, right?
I love the impression.
But, you know, perhaps it's been a little bit more challenging than he expected?
I think he's certainly been more challenging than expected. We saw this week the White House press secretary trying to list all the other wars and conflicts around the world he'd solved to try and get his Nobel Peace Prize. Look, I think this is common sense, and I think we should be pleased that sort of, you know, the sort of appeasing Putin that we saw with that hideous press conference with Zelensky a couple of months ago.
It's so confusing, though, isn't it? We don't know
which way he's going to go.
Yes. Like Zelensky's friend, Putin's friend. He's like Piggy in the middle.
I know, absolutely.
Maybe that's
a little bit of consistency over the last few weeks. Let's hope and pray it continues, because obviously we need to stand up to Putin and we need to stand behind Ukraine.
And also, is he serious? Is he just saying it to show a little bit of muscle, like you said?
I think it's muscle.
I hope he's not serious, because if we start nuking Russia, we've got World War III on our hands.
Yeah, I hope he realises deterrent is the key part of
yes,
it.
absolutely.
It's the key word, nuclear deterrent.
Absolutely.
Right, we have time for one more story. It's the AI agony aunt story.
Well, yeah,
so artificial intelligence is killing off our traditional agony aunt.
Absolutely. So apparently half of Brits would rather turn to AI for relationship advice than a friend or family member. And crucially, this is one for the three of you, because I'm the oldest on the panel by far, which is that more than 2 in 5 18 to 34-year-olds have used AI to write a breakup message.
Oh, wow.
Anybody guilty on the panel?
I can't say I
not
am.
guilty, but one of my friends, I hope she's not watching, she has recently been confiding in AI just for some relationship advice. And I said, well, why don't you want real advice? She said, because a real person like friends will be biased, or they'll like, oh, we hate him. So, but then they gather all this information and they give professional advice to a degree.
Do you know people, you know, the old adage that used to, when people go, you know, they ask for advice, they go, I'm asking for a friend. You know, I mean, it's not me. I'm a friend who's got this problem.
Yeah.
People still do that with AI and pretend it's not there.
I guess AI doesn't judge you, does it? Because it's not human.
It's non-biased.
But do you know what worries me, though, is when you stop, because, you know, Tesla's working on these robots, and they said they're going to roll them out at some point in the next decade. They're coming one way or another, right? What happens when robots, I mean, they're going to take all of our jobs, aren't they? Therapists?
Well, the weirdest thing is the most subscriptions to a dating app is actually to get an AI boyfriend and girlfriend. That's really sad. Yeah, that's the highest. Over all of the ones, the human apps.
What's an AI boyfriend and girlfriend?
That's another story.
It could be AI, Tatiana and Alex next week.
I read the sports bulletin.
You are? Yes, I forget. Tatiana is already AI for the sports bulletins, aren't you?
I think I was the first AI newsreader in the UK. I don't know.
Well, I thought we were doing
GBNews.
that we were being replaced by aliens for a moment, but...
well, aliens and AI could all collide at once, couldn't it? Could all collide at once, Tatiana. What do you think?
Yeah, your perfect moment. This is your...
Yeah, this is for me, yeah. All right, well, thank you both. We'll see you again very soon to go through the rest. There's some great stories here today, guys. We'll look forward to seeing you in the next hour. Still to come, should internships in the civil service be ring-fenced for the working class? Or should the best person for the job simply get the job? We are having a big debate on that.
But first, it's your latest news headlines from Bethany Elsey.
Good morning. Your top stories from the GB newsroom. The US president orders 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in appropriate regions in response to comments by former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, which Trump described as a highly provocative threat. A 76-year-old man is due to appear in court this morning accused of child cruelty offences after children fell ill at a summer camp in Leicestershire. And new figures have revealed half of the 6 million people waiting for NHS treatment in England have had no further healthcare since first being referred by their GP. Those are the latest headlines. More at the top of the hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
We are having a right giggle this morning, we really are. Thank you, Bethany. Still to come, we'll be joined by the brilliant Doogie Beattie, who is live in Portaferry for a sea shanty festival.
But next, should internships in the civil service be ring-fenced for the working class, or should the best people for the job get the job? We'll be debating that.
Yes, this is Saturday Morning Live with me, Alex Armstrong, and Tatiana Sanchez. We'll see you shortly.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Storm Floris arrives on Monday, but this weekend at least starts fine with sunny spells for many of us before some rain moves in overnight. Always the possibility of the odd shower across parts of eastern England through the day. Mostly, though, it's going to be a dry day. Sunny spells, yes, but a lot of cloud around as well, so not wall-to-wall sunshine by any stretch of the imagination. And it's going to feel pleasant out there, even if temperatures aren't especially high. Average for the time of year, 24 Celsius in the south, 21 further north. Here's the cloud and rain as it thickens in the northwest, end of the afternoon going into the evening. But ahead of that, much of the cloud thins and disappears, so plenty of fine weather going into the evening. Still warm with light winds out there if you've got Saturday evening plans. It's looking pretty decent across the whole of the UK. One exception, that rain starting to move into the Outer Hebrides. It's going to be light and patchy at first before some heavier stuff arrives overnight. And really, much of the wet weather turns up after dark, I think, into the west of Scotland, Northern Ireland, on and off throughout much of the evening, but then turning heavier, more persistent after midnight. It spreads across much of Scotland, pushes into northern and western England as well as Wales. And it's going to be a mild night for most of us, with temperatures holding up in the mid-teens. We do start off Sunday with some sunshine across East Anglia and the southeast, but this weather system is quick to topple southeastwards across the UK. A heavy spell of rain for northern England, North Wales, more showery for South Wales into southwest England, and then it moves into the Midlands, East Anglia, and eventually the southeast by the afternoon. Brighter skies further north with a few showers before it turns very windy as Storm Floris hits on Monday.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live with me, Tatiana Sanchez, and Alex Armstrong.
Wow.
Right, the government is launching a new civil service internship scheme, but it'll be open only to working class students.
Yes, it aims to supposedly make Whitehall better reflect the country by giving paid placements to those from lower income backgrounds.
Applicants will be judged based on what jobs their parents had when they were 14, replacing an older scheme that was open to everyone.
But is it right that working class kids should be prioritised, or is the government just letting meritocracy slip to one side? Well, joining us now to debate this is barrister Stephen Barrett and Labour activist Aisha Ali Khan. Hello, both of you. Stephen, perhaps we'll start with you. What do you make of this the government's new scheme to get working class people only into paid internships for the civil service?
Well, to me, this is indicative of how badly the relationship between this government and the people has become. The Labour Party was once proudly the party of the people, and now it is chock full of pound shop Marie Antoinettes trying to gift out bits of cake to the people it sees as its lessers. I have volunteered in this sector for 14 years, and I can tell you that working class kids can succeed on merit, and they do succeed on merit. You won't find any of my mentees working in the civil service because the civil service is already bloated, it's woke, and it's very badly paid. And if there's one thing that working class children actually need, it's a properly paid job. So they would do far better if we went back to meritocracy, stopped patronising them with these silly little gestures and patronising handouts, and had an elite civil service that actually worked for the country.
Yeah.
That would be far better for everybody.
OK, Aisha, I think the problem I've got with this is that the Prime Minister's been asked many, many times to define what working class is, and he's not been able to do it. So how can we trust them to implement the scheme when they can't define what working class is?
Hi, Alex. I think it's one of those things where society has changed so much. 100 years ago, if somebody said, what would working class entail, a job, you could easily say, you know, somebody who worked in the mines, down the mines, somebody who was a servant, somebody who laboured. So the hard sort of back-breaking jobs, that would be the classic example of a working class background. But just, you know, I think this is a great idea, by the way. I think it's about time that we did allow people from all over the UK, from all different social backgrounds, to have a go at experience what it's like to work in Whitehall, to what it's like to work with different departments of the government. And I think it's fair to, you know, it's all well and good to say people should rely on their ability, their talent, their intellect, and so on. But we all know that people from certain backgrounds do not get those opportunities. And I think, look, it's 200 placements starting next year, and these people getting the hopefully that will get these placements, it's going to transform their job opportunities. It's going to transform their ability to get the next job, the connections that they're going to make. Their CV is going to look amazing. They're going to work with ministers. They're going to be doing all sorts of different jobs. And you know, I think it's a fantastic idea.
Okay.
And maybe it might not lead to something socially, it might not change much, but at least it'll give them another step up, another helping hand, and that's what we need to do with this country.
I'm not entirely sure that it is fair. I think that it says here that only young people from lower socio-economic backgrounds can even apply. But what's to say, I mean, that just doesn't seem entirely fair. Would it be fairer for everybody to be able to at least apply for something?
Well, I would say so too. And Stephen, would you not argue that, particularly in government, we need the best people for the job?
Well, they've messed up. I mean, Aisha's right that the definition is incredibly tricky, and they've already messed that up. So they're including kids whose dad is a train driver who earns $80,000 a year. Now, you can argue that's a working class job if you want to, but I think if you've got £80,000 a year coming into a household, it's probably doing okay, and that kid is probably doing okay. And that's where you get to when you start doing this sort of fantasy cosplaying aristocratic mode. You know, they're trying to patronize. They're trying to give gifts to people that they fundamentally don't understand. What's broken down is that they don't have a relationship or an understanding of ordinary people. They live entirely in a Whitehall bubble. That's why they're selling this as some sort of fantasy. What gift is it to our children to let them work in a broken home office that doesn't work? Which part of the broken civil service do we want them to work in? What a great CV build it is.
Stephen, I mean, you can absolutely argue where many people would say the Home Office is working well. I certainly wouldn't, but many people would say that. I think the real problem I've got is that it seems to me that rather than encouraging young people to do better and to work really hard, look, I came from a working class background, a single mother parent household. It was very difficult for us growing up, but I worked my backside off and dragged myself out of that environment in order to give myself a better life. If there's not an incentive there to do that anymore, Aisha, are we just saying to everybody, don't worry about it, because your parents were perhaps poorer than others, you're going to get a leg up in society? Is that the right thing to do, or is it simply pandering for votes?
No, I think it's the right thing to do, but the way you framed it, Alex, I think is wrong. I think people from a background where parents, I mean, obviously Stephen's just mentioned potentially train drivers earning 80 grand. Majority of the people do not earn that much. Majority of the people are on 20,000, 30,000. They're really struggling to make ends meet. And the last thing they'll be thinking about is, you know, some fancy placement in London somewhere. They can't afford it. So I think this idea of actually encouraging people to think beyond not only their hometown, their home city, but beyond, and maybe look at somewhere like London, which traditionally, I mean, I'm from a working class background. My dad worked in the factories. He came over from Pakistan when he was 14, 15 and worked in the factories for years and years. We've got really good, strong work ethic, myself and my siblings. And, you know, I'm a teacher now, so I wouldn't classify myself as working class anymore. But I still remember my roots. And I think, and Alex, as you've just referred to your roots as well, it never really leaves you, does it? But if we were given those opportunities early on, it would help people. And I think, look, these are just placements in terms. They're only for 2 months. It's not as though we're giving them, you know, a £50,000 post and a gold-plated pension and so on. We're just giving these young people a taste of what it could be like should they want to work somewhere like London. And I think everybody should, I mean, when I go to London, my nickname is always Yorkshire or something, or Bradford, because I have a different accent to most people. And it's nice, it's refreshing, but it's not the norm in London. When I go and visit, majority of the people don't come across people like me. And I think we need to change that. We need to encourage more people to go to London, not just to visit, but to actually see themselves and work with government. So.
All right. Thank you very much there, Stephen Barrett, of course, brilliant barrister, and Labour activist Aisha Ali Khan. Thank you very much for joining us for that debate of the day.
Yes, thank you. And before we go, Mike Wood, the Shadow Cabinet Office Minister, said the scheme sends a message that unless you fit a particular social profile, you're no longer welcome.
Yeah, this is the problem with it all. And you know, look, there'll be many working class people watching, and you'll want your kids to get in because they've worked hard to get to where they are. And I think when you start treating people based on this little package or this little class that's made by the government, where does that take us anyway?
Well, you leave people out, don't you?
Yeah, exactly, Tatiana. Okay. Well, anyway, it's now time for our daily reflection.
The GB News Daily Reflection.
Hello, my name is Johnny Dade and I'm a vicar in the Church of England. There was a radical movement in the 1960s that coined the phrase, "make love, not war." It was basically a rejection of militarism in favour of a sort of hippie vision of peace and love. However, though the number of wars may have decreased over time, it is clear that we don't live in a state of peace. Far from it. The Hebrew word shalom perhaps gives us a better vision for peace. Shalom goes much deeper than merely an absence of hostilities. Shalom refers to a wholeness of personhood, the reconciliation of people with one another and with God. Shalom is not about a moment of calm or a pause in conflict, but a way of life. Jesus famously said, "Peace I give you, my peace I leave with you. I do not give as the world gives." In the Beatitudes, Jesus proclaimed, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." You see, it isn't good enough to simply absent ourselves from conflict. That's avoidance, not resolution. Instead, we are called to be active in making peace. It's a doing thing. And you know, it starts right here in the human heart.
Still to come, we'll be joined by Doogie Beattie, who is live in Portaferry for the Sea Shanty Festival. But first, if you are in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun. Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Whilst the UK gears up for Storm Floris, it turns increasingly hot in Portugal, although there'll be some heavy rain in Croatia and Italy, particularly the central part of Italy. Thunderstorms expected here, thunderstorms moving through parts of Croatia and Bosnia. But for much of Iberia, it's sunny spells and increased heat. Higher temperatures than average for much of Portugal. And that's expected to continue into the start of next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live with me, Tatiana Sanchez, and Alex Armstrong.
We were just... Do you know what a sea shanty festival is at home?
Yeah, do you?
Because I've never heard of this before. Well, I know what sea shanties are. I've never heard of there being a festival.
Ah, well, Northern Ireland's first Sea Shanty Festival is back this year for 4 unforgettable days of maritime celebration, live music, cultural traditions and coastal fun.
Yes, we're joined by GB News reporter Doogie Beattie to tell us more all about it. Doogie, what is a sea shanty festival?
Well, I'm like you, Alex. I didn't realise what a sea shanty was either. I thought it was some sort of limerick put to music, but it's not. It's a lot more technical than that. And of course, this festival started on Friday. In fact, I took a tour of the loch last night. Strangford Loch is the biggest sea loch in the British Isles, and it has some beautiful wildlife, some beautiful history to it. And now it has some beautiful ladies singing sea shanties. And joining me now is Christine. Christine, you are the Silkies group. What is a Silkie?
Selkies are a bit like mermaids. They live in the sea. They wear sealskin coats when they're in the sea. When they want to come out on land, they take the sealskin coat off and they become human. And when they want to go back in the water, they put the coat back on again and away they swim.
A bit of a bad job. There's a few orcas about, mind you. And they do come into this loch.
They do,
you know,
and dolphins.
But what does it bring to you to be part of a group like this?
Oh, enormous fun. We've all learned a lot of sea shanty music that we never knew before. We've met a lot of people that we never met before. We've become kind of a fixture in the community now. We've sung all over Northern Ireland. We sang in Poland earlier on this year. And we just really enjoy ourselves and enjoy the music.
Well, there you go. If you want to give us a little number, we'd be grand to hear it, especially with the Borons. Take it away.
We wish that you would hurry up and strike the bell. Strike the bell, 2nd May, let us go below. Look away to windward, you can see it's gonna blow. Look at the glass, you can see that it has fell. We wish that you would hurry up and strike the bell. Strike the bell, 2nd May, let us go below. Look away to windward, you can see it's gonna blow. Look at the glass, you can see that it has fell. We wish that you would hurry up and strike the bell.
There you go. What a number. Round of applause. They're even clapping on the footpaths here for them. It is a brilliant festival. Really gets underway about 12 o'clock today, and it will go on till Sunday evening. If you're in Northern Ireland, get down to Portaferry.
Dougie, I'm blown away. I honestly cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. I've never ever heard of a sea shanty festival before, but I'm very impressed. Those ladies did a brilliant job. Have you ever considered being I think, was it a silky, Dougie? What was a silky again? Remind us.
Yeah, it's a mermaid type. It's an Irish mythical creature that's a seal that becomes a woman and then can become a seal again. That's the best way of explaining it. I think I've met a few of them in a bar some night.
All right, Dougie Beattie, loads more coming up. We'll see you again in an hour or so. Lots more to come, of course, today on the show. Loads of top stories, including the latest from Clarkson's farm and more, as President Trump gives his big nuclear threat. Tatiana, do you think you'd ever be a silky?
Well, I was going to say it's right up your street with the aliens and the dance today, isn't it? This is your day. This is all about you.
It's all about the weird things today. We're having a very unique Saturday morning live. Well, don't go anywhere because loads more of this weirdness still to come.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Lots of fine weather on offer through the course of this afternoon, some warm spells of sunshine too, but we do have Storm Flores on the way for Monday, so some potentially disruptive winds on the way. And ahead of that, we do have this weak weather front pushing southeastwards across the UK through tonight and into Sunday, so some rain as well for some of us before then too. But on Saturday afternoon, it's not going to be blue skies for everyone, but nonetheless, there will be some warm spells of sunshine, perhaps the best of which will be around some western coasts of England and Wales, and more especially across Scotland, where there should be plenty of sunshine. And in that sunshine, it should feel warmer than it did on Friday, highs of 20 to 24 degrees Celsius, so around average for the time of year, and winds also lighter too. Fairly fine into this evening as well, that cloud starting to melt away, particularly in the south, so some evening spells of sunshine in southern counties too, but still fairly large amounts of cloud. We'll run into more in the way of sunshine across parts of Wales, northern England and Scotland, so a fine evening to come here, still fairly pleasantly warm in that sunshine, temperatures in the teens Celsius as we begin the evening too. But out towards the west, we have got this frontal system pushing in to western parts of Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland. Associated with that will be some fairly heavy outbreaks of rain through later this evening and more especially overnight. That band of rain will push its way eastwards and southwards, introducing a more humid air mass, so lots of low cloud, hill fog developing, and again, still some heavier outbreaks of rain in places. Staying much drier though towards the south and the east of the UK, clear skies here and not as cold as it was last night, temperatures holding up into double figures for all of us. And a pretty mild and humid start to the day on Sunday, particularly across the west. Lots of low cloud around coast, outbreaks of rain pushing their way southeastwards across the UK. Still some heavier bursts in places, but the front weakening as it comes towards the south, so only showery rain in the southeast later in the day. Brighter skies falling from the north and temperatures ranging from 20 to 25 degrees.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
This is your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for an entire year. We'll give you a cash lump sum that will cover 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, up to an incredible £20,000. Plus, we'll add £5,000 on top of that for you to treat yourself. You have to hurry though, as lines will close on the 29th of August. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Shanty, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hello, it's 11 a.m. on Saturday, the 2nd of August, live across the UK. This is, of course, Saturday Morning Live.
Yes, it is. The US president deploys 2 nuclear submarines towards Russia. As the war of words escalates, President Trump said the threat of Russia couldn't be ignored.
We just have to be careful. And a threat was made, and we didn't think it was appropriate, so I have to be very careful. So I do that on the basis of safety for our people.
And nearly 1 million NHS free passes covering everything from prescriptions to dental work have been handed to asylum seekers in 5 years. People are asking this morning, who is the NHS really working for?
The Metropolitan Police has released a policing plan for potential protests set to take place outside hotels housing asylum seekers this weekend. That's as Donald Trump's administration raised concerns about free speech in Britain after a Whitehall unit has been accused of spying on critics of migrant hotels.
Crack, it's all about the song, it's all about the sea, it's all about culture and tradition, Ulster Scots traditions, dancing, singing. It looks like it's going to be a great weekend.
Yes, Portaferry's Sea Shanty Festival returns with 4 jam-packed days of folk tunes, boat races and pirate fun. Doogie Beatty is in Strangford Lough.
We're here, Stratford Lough, Portaferry. The weather's out. It is a beautiful day. The Sea Shanty Festival is now underway, where singers from right across the UK are coming to entertain. We'll have more throughout the programme.
Yes, of course, it's Stratford Lough. Of course it is.
Of course it is. I think we both made a spectacular mess of that one.
Apologies to anyone who's offended we couldn't read clearly. OK, well, we've got the biggest stories coming up. Lots of fun on this show. We've gone from sea shanties to aliens to Donald Trump issuing nuclear war.
We have. We've got lots of lively debates coming up in the next hour with me, Tatiana Sanchez, and Alex Armstrong.
And because we can't talk this morning, we want to hear from you. What would you like us to read out your views? We'll get them in gbnews.com/your say.
But before we do anything else, Bethany, Elsie has all of your news.
Thank you both. Good morning. We'll start this news with some breaking stories. A 76-year-old man has been remanded into custody after appearing at Leicester Magistrates Court, charged with child cruelty offences. John Reuben from Nottingham has been charged with 3 counts of willful ill-treatment of a child at a summer camp in Leicestershire. 8 children from the camp near Melton Mowbray were taken to hospital as a precaution, but have all since returned home. Reuben will appear at Leicester Crown Court later this month. President Donald Trump has ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in what he described as appropriate regions. He said he was responding to comments made online by a former Russian president, which Trump described as highly provocative. Dmitry Medvedev, who is now deputy chair of Russia's Security Council, said US threats of tough sanctions over its war in Ukraine were a step towards war, adding that Moscow has Soviet-era nuclear capabilities as a last resort. President Trump said his Middle East envoy has what he called a great meeting in Gaza on getting food and other aid into the territory. Steve Witkoff visited sites run by the controversial Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which is backed by both the US and Israel. The United Nations has partly blamed the group for the deadly conditions near aid collection points. More than 1,000 people have been killed while seeking food aid in Gaza since the group began operating, most of them shot by Israeli forces. Back here in the UK, half of the 6 million people waiting for NHS treatment in England have no further health care since first being referred by their GP. 1 million of those unseen patients have already gone more than 18 weeks without receiving any care. MBI Health says the problem has gone unchallenged for too long, adding that delays in making first assessments can lead to late diagnosis, worsening symptoms and pressure on emergency services. The financial regulator is debating whether an industry-wide compensation scheme is needed after the Supreme Court ruling on car finance. Lenders have for now avoided having to pay compensation to millions of drivers. After the Supreme Court ruled they are not liable for hidden commission payments. The Financial Conduct Authority said it's studying the judgment, which overturned previous rulings, and that it will decide next steps by Monday. And Tesla has been ordered to pay more than $200 million to the family of a young woman who was hit by an electric car on autopilot. The woman was killed and her boyfriend injured after the car crashed into their parked car at more than 60 miles an hour. A jury in Florida found the electric car company partly to blame for the incident, which happened in 2019. But Elon Musk's company says the driver was at fault and that it would appeal. Those are the latest headlines. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Very much, Bethany, and welcome back to Saturday Morning Live with Alex Armstrong and me, Tatiana Sanchez.
Yes, President Trump has deployed 2 nuclear submarines near Russia. escalating tensions with Moscow and breaking decades of Pentagon secrecy. The move follows a fiery exchange with Dmitry Medvedev, Russia's former president, who warned Donald Trump to soften his stance on Ukraine and reminded him of Moscow's nuclear arsenal.
Such deployments are typically kept secret, with past presidents only revealing them during major crises, such as the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Here is what Donald Trump told reporters outside the White House.
We just have to be careful. And a threat was made, and we didn't think it was appropriate, so I have to be very careful. So I do that on the basis of safety for our people.
Yeah, given that this has only ever really been released in those really critical moments, are we heading to one of those critical moments now? Well, joining us is former Conservative MP and former chairman of the Defence Select Committee, Tobias Ellwood. Tobias, worrying news for people, I suspect. Nuclear war is something we should avoid at all costs, I'm sure you'll agree. Is the president making the right move by declaring this publicly?
No, he's not. I mean, this is a worrying turn of events, as you described. It demonstrates just how sour that US-Russian relationship has become and is descending further. But it does also shine light on the complete absence of any back channels or protocols that were once in place, certainly during the Cold War, to avoid this ratcheting up of tensions and rhetoric with a focus on de-escalation. And we need to keep this in perspective. This was not the Russian president or a senior general spouting these provocative remarks, probably for domestic consumption, but the deputy chairman, as you were outlining, of the Russian Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, who has a reputation for spouting mischievous information. So this is currently looking more about Trump, who frankly had a naive view of Putin, believing he could do business with him, even siding with Russia rather than Ukraine, if you remember, in the hope of getting a Ukraine cease deal. Putin is a long-experienced, wily operator. He survived for 25 years at the top. Trump is now only realizing this, and he's been humiliated and taken for a ride. And this is reflected in what this is. An overreaction to something that should never have received so much airtime is now inflaming tensions, requiring a form of diplomatic off-ramp. So, as you described, these are increasingly dangerous times.
Yes, go ahead, Tatiana.
At the same time, Tobias, can I put this to you? Security analysts called Trump's move a rhetorical escalation with Moscow, but not necessarily a military one. So do we need to be quite as worried as you're saying?
Well, this is what you could call gunboat diplomacy, a controlled demonstration of force in a politically sensitive situation, and trying to show power projection designed to shape behavior. But it's the talking the talk, hoping you don't have to walk the walk. And that can be very, very dangerous indeed. We've got two nuclear powers arguing on social media. Is that where the world's come to? It demonstrates the total loss of any trusted behind-the-scenes diplomatic communication designed to de-escalate. If I can just share, I bumped into the Russian Foreign Minister, Lavrov, last year at a conference. I've met him many times as foreign minister. He's an incessant liar. You remember he said, we're not going to invade Ukraine and so on. And I asked him in a quiet moment, were the old Cold War back channels still in place? And he shook his head and said, no, it's getting more dangerous.
Yeah.
And for the first time, I believed him. This Trump-Medvedev social media spat is demonstrating that.
And Tobias, could just on that point, because of course, Trump's only been in office for, well, not even a year yet. So perhaps some of that breakdown in communication happened under the previous administration. Could you argue that, you look at people like JFK who did escalate tensions, but brought to the end of those tensions at the best détente period we'd had for a very long period of time, because the United States was willing to show its strength on the world stage. And obviously Trump has argued time and time again that America's strength has been weakened on the world stage, and therefore people like Russia don't take them seriously. Is perhaps that strongman approach going to help bring Russia to the table with it looks like America's not messing around?
Well, you need to be careful with your words, but you make an important point that those back channels have been in place since the Cuban Missile Crisis. I don't think that red phone isn't a red phone anymore, but it's symbolic. Is not being used. That's exactly what this is for. Stuff gets said in Moscow and indeed in Washington by Trump himself that sometimes is inflammatory. Sometimes we don't understand what Trump is actually meaning. But it doesn't mean to say that we react to everything he says. And what we're seeing is things ratchet out of control. To the moment, we don't know where this is going to go. Pleased to see that Steve Witkoff, I think he was heading there anyway, Trump's envoy, is heading to Moscow. I hope that will calm things down. But this has got to be a wake-up call for Trump. He must rewrite his Russia strategy, recognizing Putin is no friend of the West or of America. And if we want to move forward on Ukraine, then we need to support Ukraine. If we want to move forward in challenging Russia, we need to have proper, robust sanctions in place.
Tobias, thank you very much for joining us there. So, yes, Tobias Elwood.
Big stuff.
On the tensions between Russia and the US at the moment.
Yeah, are we heading back into a new Cold War period? I mean, what do you think at home? I'd love to hear your thoughts there, because I know this is quite a worrying story. We hear so much of this sabre-rattling these days. You never know which one's going to be the one that sets it all off. But anyway, moving on, the Chancellor is set to speak, bizarrely, at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival today, and it comes amid a series of woeful economic warnings.
There were reports yesterday that economic confidence has fallen to a record low as tax rises loom in the autumn budget, and the spotlight is also back on a potential wealth tax.
Rachel Reeves spoke to reporters in Scotland yesterday.
Decisions around tax decisions that are made at a budget, and we'll make those decisions in the appropriate way. But the number one priority of this government is to grow the economy, and that means bringing more investment into Britain, creating more good jobs, paying decent wages here in Britain. And we've got to get the balance right on taxation, because we want that investment, we want those jobs to come here. That's why we're reforming the planning system, secured 3 trade deals in the first year of this Labour government, cutting back on unnecessary regulation, and reforming our pension system to unlock money for businesses to be able to invest here in the UK.
Well, the Chancellor will be in a very different environment from that military background you saw there, because she's going to be at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, interestingly. Joining us now is economics editor at The Spectator, Michael Simmons. Michael, thank you very much for joining us this morning. I find this perplexing, but perhaps before we get into the economic crisis of the country, perhaps her going to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival is them listening and saying, actually, we need to get out to see the public more often.
Yeah, well, maybe, but I'm not sure how representative the people that are at the Edinburgh Fringe are of the, you know, the wider British public. And I say that as someone from Edinburgh. I also think part of it is Rachel Reeves, you know, wants to get some good news, get some good exposure before she has to deliver her autumn budget, which, make no mistake, is going to be depressing. It's going to have tax rises. It's potentially going to have cuts. It's not going to be a good read.
I was reporting yesterday on the potential the British Retail Consortium had said that they are expecting food inflation to go up another 2% to 6% by the end of the year. We're looking at a potential summer of discontent. We're looking at tax rises. This is a powder keg. Labour have been in government for a year. Will it be possible for Labour to blame the Tories any further on their own economic failures?
I mean, look, they're certainly going to try, and I think they do have a bit of an argument on some of the spending commitments that have got us into this mess. I mean, one of the huge problems that why debt is so high and why we're in this constant fiscal hole we're having to fill is because of the triple lock on pensions that's just completely unaffordable, and that obviously was a Conservative policy. However, they have been in here a year. The story that you're talking about today about business confidence being at a record low is specifically because of Rachel Reeves' policy at the last budget to raise taxes on national insurance tax for employers by 25 billion. Labour are still bringing in the Employment Rights Act that's basically going to make it impossible to sack anyone. So the net effect of that is that small businesses don't want to take risks in terms of growing and expanding their teams. And as a result, the economy is not growing. And as you see, you know, the people that are answering these surveys are saying they're really worried they're not going to make investments. And that's perpetuating the cycle.
And interestingly, Michael, because the government released their own survey of business confidence and they said it was at all-time highs. So how do we read between the lines here?
Well, look, I mean, you can twist these surveys to you know, get them what you want to say, but I think of all the business confidence surveys that we have, more of them are on the negative side. And if you don't want to believe the surveys, I mean, just look at unemployment. That's going up. We see in payroll jobs data that that's come down as well. So clearly employers are deciding not to create jobs, or when people leave, they're deciding not to replace them just because they're so worried about what the tax environment is going to be after autumn.
So what can we do then, or what can the government do then, in your view, to boost public confidence?
Well, I think they need to be clear. Obviously, like Rich Reeves is not going to announce the budget before the autumn, but she could do certain things like explicitly rule out the wealth tax idea, which the Labour backbenchers really want her to do, but just would be unequivocally bad for the economy. They could roll back some of the things that Angela Rayner wants to do to make the business environment more difficult. But look, they've got a challenge because ultimately we just have staggeringly high levels of national debt that are going up and up. And until you majorly reform either how we do tax in this country or the size of the state, this problem is not going to go away.
Wealth taxes that we speak about quite a lot now. And of course, Jeremy Corbyn's new party, I suspect this will be one of their leading policies, right? So it seems to me Labour is trying to swing in both directions, maybe perhaps a bit more right-wing on social policies, a little bit more left-wing on economic policies. Do they know who they are anymore? And can the Chancellor really build a coherent budget to appease both her backbenchers and her frontbenchers?
Well, look, she's in a very difficult position. I think she's also playing a dangerous game, though, because they're floating this idea of the wealth tax to appease the backbenchers, who we now see completely control the Labour Party. We saw with the U-turns on the welfare reforms. At the same time, they'll quietly brief to journalists. They'll tell people in business and finance that, oh, don't worry, we're not actually going to do the wealth tax. That's a daft idea. And the result of that is creating this environment of uncertainty that so worries business decision makers. And that's why you see this survey at a record low.
Yeah, Annalise Dodds, of course, former minister, has said it's important to consider this. I do wonder whether we are heading towards a wealth tax. Just very briefly, what sort of damage would that do to the British economy?
I mean, look, it's just unequivocal. We can see in any country that's tried this, it doesn't work. The people with the broadest shoulders, as Keir Starmer likes to call them, also have the longest legs, so they will leave. We've had data this year showing their millionaires are leaving Britain more than any other country, and more just will go.
Absolutely.
And where are they going, Al?
It tends to be now, a lot are going to America, but also places like Dubai, the Arab Emirates, etc.
Yeah, Michael Simmons, thank you so much for joining us to talk about that. We'll be looking forward to hearing what the Chancellor has to say at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Perhaps she'll crack a joke. Perhaps she'll say the economy's doing extremely well. That'll make everyone laugh, won't it? Anyway, still to come, Jeremy Clarkson has been sharing how his farm is struggling with a TB outbreak. We'll be going live to rural Britain to learn more about farmers and what they're having to deal with.
But next, more of today's top stories, including Mick Jagger looking to have another child at the age of 82.
What? Are you joking?
No, I'm not joking. No, I'm not joking. This is Saturday Morning Live on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here We do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live with me, Alex Armstrong, and Tatiana Sanchez. What a lovely... Well, it's a very different show today, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very different. The first time us together, isn't it?
It is. It is. Normally, sat somewhere over there with the news, and I'm sat over here by myself. There we go. It's fun, isn't it? Right,
is.
Well, looking through the top stories today, we're delighted to be joined by broadcaster Lynn May and former Labour advisor Matthew Larzer. OK, where should we start, Tatiana? Where should I
think
start?
we should start with the Mick Jagger story.
Yeah.
So Mick Jagger is having another child at the age of 82.
Potentially.
Potentially.
Yeah, potentially. So he said he was feeling great, turning 82. He was skipping into the party, feels young as ever. And he's with a former ballerina, Mel, who's 38. And because he feels so fantastic, they may have another baby.
He's got 8 kids.
Yeah, my maths isn't mathing. How much is that's got to be like a 40, 50-something year?
Yes.
Yeah, well, the thing is as well, when he had his party, he had all of his exes there, all of their children, people that cheated, you know, who he cheated on with. So my only thing has to be, it's because
Sounds
he's
like
a
my
rock
worst
star,
nightmare, really.
rich
Sounds like my
and
worst nightmare.
famous.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, totally,
Would a steady
right?
Eddie, normal guy get this sort of privilege?
8 kids plus another, so 9 kids.
With all the exes.
I'm not sure that
At least
I
you can afford it.
I'm not sure I'd call a room full of me being in a room full of my exes a privilege.
Well,
Depends how many there are, Tatiana.
He calls the shots, apparently. He calls the absolute shots.
8 children. I don't know how old his oldest is.
I mean, I think it's really... I mean, my dad was 50 when he had me, and I think that's just about the cut-off.
Yeah,
Because, you know, with the best will in the world and all Mick Jagger's money, there's a limit to all of our... You know, we all have so long on this earth.
Can I ask you...
And the kid's going to end up having, you know, basically being very young when their dad is no longer there.
Was there a disconnect between you and your dad?
Not really.
Generational?
I think there's... Not massively. I mean, there's. I think now there are a lot more older parents, but then people would say, "I was your granddad had turned up." So I think now that you get a bit less of that, but there was certainly. But I think 50. Think about it. By the time you're 70, they're 75, you're 25, you can cope with them getting older. But if this kid's never going to know a young dad.
I know.
Well, and his oldest
even youngish dad.
His oldest daughter is 53.
Oh, it's a bit much,
so almost that's not even the age his mother of the child he might potentially have. I think it gets to the point where it's a little bit cruel.
Yes,
because that child would grow up probably without a father. I mean, look, he's 82. He's not a young man. He could live to 100. I love Mick Jagger, but I think it gets a little bit cruel.
But then what about women who say now that they want to have a child and they're going to go it alone? She's still going to be there, and all the money is probably going to facilitate a much better life than maybe 2 parents who aren't that good, struggling. No money.
Yeah, but when you've got a parent of the celebrity status of Mick Jagger, it's always going to be a big part of your life, even when they're gone, isn't it? And if you never really knew them, I think the older dads need to have a little think before they. You know what?
And Al Pacino did the same, didn't he? Al Pacino.
I think if you've got money and celebrity status, it's probably quite easy, eh?
Maybe he just wanted to leave a legacy as well.
Well, he's definitely leaving. He's leaving 9 legacies behind him by the looks of it. And some record-selling albums by the sounds of it too. Right, let's move on, Matthew. I want to talk about this Labour Party losing its first potential seat to the Corbyn Party.
So it's actually in Zara Sultana, who is the co-leader, as I think we meant to call it, of your party, full name, permanent name, to be confirmed. And so a local councillor in Coventry, where Zara Sultana, who is the co-leader, is the MP, who is a Labour councillor, is very young. She, I think, is just 21, has now defected from Labour to the Tories. She's on Coventry City Council.
Matthew, who is she defecting to? Because this party doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, to the not sure what it's called party.
She said, no, she said she's going to be independent for now.
Yeah, right.
But she is going to throw her energy behind Zara Sultana and Corbyn. And she said, you know, the council, Coventry Council, hasn't done what it's supposed to have done, which is really help the working class people from a Labour point of view, which is why she joined Labour when she was 16. And she says it doesn't feel like Labour.
Sure.
And I think there's something to say. I probably would never vote for Labour, but or Corbyn's party at that. But there's something to be said for. We do not know what Labour are anymore. And I do think that people on the left, whether we agree with them or not, do need a home. And I don't think it's Labour anymore. So why not?
Matthew, would you agree with that? Do you think Labour has just forgotten or lost, perhaps, who it is?
No, not at all. I think that the issue... She's 22, not 21. I took a year off her age. So she's called Grace Lewis. So I think the issue of people like Grace is she's 22. The Labour Party has been led by Keir Starmer for 5-6 years now. It's pretty clear what Keir Starmer stood for. If she was hoping that the Labour Party was still the Labour Party of Jeremy Corbyn, which in my view wasn't what it was always, it was a brief nightmare interregnum in the Labour Party's history, then she was deluding herself.
I don't know, Matthew, because the Labour Party have been massive on, you know, gender politics, trans rights, and Keir Starmer previously said, you know, with regards to comments on what a woman is, and he wouldn't say, and now he's like, yes, well, we know what a woman is and it can't be a trans man. So there's so many other issues that I could say that the Labour voter does not feel like Keir Starmer is sticking to what he previously
I think
did.
on the trans issue, I think you have a point that, you know, the position, you may have felt the position has changed. If that's the overwhelming issue that people want to leave Labour on, that's their choice. And we saw people allegedly defacing Wes Streeting's office, at the Health Secretary's office, constituency office over the last few days. Certainly there were sort of pro-trans rights slogans, etc. I understand posted on it, so, you know, painted on it. So I can understand people who, for that, is their number one and passionate issue. But to say that the Labour Party
welfare cuts. What about welfare cuts?
Labour made absolutely clear on the way in that it was going to have to do hard things to balance the budget. Whether they're right or wrong is another debate. But the idea that there are people who thought that this wasn't going to happen is just living in cloud cuckoo. If they want to go and join Uncle Jezza, you know, good luck to them. We'll see what happens. I suspect that the party will only do well in those small number of areas where we've seen the Gaza independence.
Well, we said that about Reformer. Look how well they're polling now. You never know.
Back in 5 years, I'll be so old.
Let's see. Briefly then, quickly, Lynn, Heathrow expansion is essential for growth in the UK. The Times have reported today. Rachel Reeves looks like she's going to have a fight with Sadiq Khan on her hands.
She will have a fight because Sadiq Khan has been very vocal on, you know, green policy. There are so many different groups coming out saying that pollution, air control, we need to get a hold of this. But we're seeing huge... a lot of confidence with business, and it's needed, you know? The expansion's needed. Nothing has been happening at Heathrow. And in order for us to bolster business and tourism, we need to see it happen.
For £21 billion over the next decade?
Well, that's my fear. We're not very good at infrastructure.
We're terrible at it.
I think a decade is hopeful as well, on the basis of HS.
It's never going to happen.
And also, we'd have to lock down, like, whole towns, Matthew. Did Boris have a better idea of building a new airport in the Thames Estuary?
Well, that was not uncontroversial in itself. No, look, I think that Heathrow expansion is going to go ahead. I think this is Sadiq Khan flexing his muscles. He's doing a legal challenge ahead of his next London mayoral election. There's a big question mark whether Sadiq Khan will be the Labour candidate, whether he wants to be, and whether he'll be the members will want him to be as well. So he's trying to probably curry favour there. Rachel Reeves, desperate to show her muscle and show that she's pro-business. Well, I'm not sure how many people at the Edinburgh Fringe will be pro-Heathrow.
Well, that's going to be really interesting to see how that goes, isn't it? That will be...
She might not mention that while she's with the Guardian readers.
It's going to be HS2 all over again.
Yeah, well, look, I think just let's touch on that Fringe Festival stuff for just a very, very brief moment, because it is a bit... It's funny, isn't it, to see that we saw images of the Chancellor there at a military base.
Yeah.
Now she's going to be at the Fringe Festival. Why are they going to the Fringe Festival?
I have no idea. I think that Rachel
Take your best guess. What would you say?
I think they're trying to appeal to a wide
popularity
audience.
boost.
And exactly. But it goes back to what I said about Keir Starmer. We don't really know what the Labour Party stand for. They're trying to do piggy in the middle and pick and mix of different sorts of environments.
Yeah, OK. All right. Well, Matthew, Lynn May, thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you again very shortly. Lots more to come on the show today. But first, let's get your news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Good morning. The headlines from the GB newsroom. A 76-year-old man has been remanded in custody after appearing in court charged with child cruelty offences after children fell ill at a summer camp in Leicestershire. The US president orders 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in appropriate regions in response to comments by a former Russian president, which Trump described as highly provocative. The financial regulator says it's debating whether an industry-wide compensation scheme is needed after the Supreme Court ruled lenders are not responsible for hidden commission payments on car finance. And half of the 6 million people waiting for NHS treatment in England have had no further health care since first being referred by their GP. Those are the latest headlines. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Bethany. Still to come, we'll be joined by Dougie Beattie, who is live in Portaferry for the Sea Shanty Festival.
But next, Jeremy Clarkson has been sharing how his farm is struggling with a TB outbreak. We'll be going live to rural Britain to learn more about what farmers are having to deal with. This is Saturday Morning Live with me, Alex Armstrong, and Tatiana Sanchez. We'll see you after the break.
Hello there and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Lots of fine weather on offer through the course of this afternoon, some warm spells of sunshine too, but we do have storm flurries on the way for Monday, so some potentially disruptive winds on the way. And ahead of that, we do have this weak weather front pushing southeastwards across the UK through tonight and into Sunday, so some rain as well for some of us before then too. But on Saturday afternoon, it's not going to be blue skies for everyone, but nonetheless, there will be some warm spells of sunshine, perhaps the best of which will be around some western coasts of England and Wales, and more especially across Scotland, where there should be plenty of sunshine. And in that sunshine, it should feel warmer than it did on Friday, highs of 20 to 24 degrees Celsius, so around average for the time of year, and winds also lighter too. Fairly fine into this evening as well, that cloud starting to melt away, particularly in the south, so some evening spells of sunshine in southern counties too, but still fairly large amounts of cloud. We'll run into more in the way of sunshine across parts of Wales, northern England and Scotland, so a fine evening to come here, still fairly pleasantly warm in that sunshine, temperatures in the teens Celsius as we begin the evening too. But out towards the west, we have got this frontal system pushing in to western parts of Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland. Associated with that will be some fairly heavy outbreaks of rain through later this evening and more especially overnight. That band of rain will push its way eastwards and southwards, introducing a more humid air mass, so lots of low cloud, hill fog developing, and again, still some heavier outbreaks of rain in places. Staying much drier though towards the south and the east of the UK, clear skies here and not as cold as it was last night, temperatures holding up into double figures for all of us. And a pretty mild and humid start to the day on Sunday, particularly across the west. Lots of low cloud around coast, outbreaks of rain pushing their way southeastwards across the UK. Still some heavier bursts in places, but the front weakening as it comes towards the south, so only showery rain in the southeast later in the day. Brighter skies following from the north and temperatures ranging from 20 to 25 degrees.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Yes, we did it.
Thank you for making us Britain's #1 news channel. We couldn't have done it without you.
Absolutely not. It is down to each and every single one of you who chooses to watch us, to listen to us, and to be a part of what we're trying to do. Thank you.
This is just the beginning. Britain's #1 news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live. Look, before we go and speak to Farmer Douglas, we just want to do one more story with Matthew and Lynn, right? So what do you feel about a 4-day working week becoming the norm?
I don't think it should be across the board because the service levels will drop.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's been more discussion today because this is about this council in Cambridgeshire, which is South Cambridgeshire Council, which is introducing a 4-day working week. And a professor down the road at Cambridge University has said he agrees, and that people in Britain just pretend they're virtuous by working a 5-day week, but actually a 4-day working week could be the answer to our economic woes.
Lynn, very briefly, could be AI, could be making this all together?
Possibly, but then we'll go down to 3, then we'll have no jobs.
Yeah, because I think that the AI stuff, when I look at what it can do already, it's going to surely just shorten your administration.
But it's wiped 30% of young people's jobs already.
Wow, really?
So you can imagine where we're going to be in 5 to 10 years with AI.
What do you think that means for the economy, Matthew?
Well, I think the big issue will become that people won't want to become bankers anymore. They want to go be plumbers because the things that can't be replaced by AI will suddenly become a lot more attractive. And they're often the things, traditional skills, traditional trades that we've neglected in this country. Remember when, we had to import 500,000 plumbers from Poland because we didn't have any of our own? Yeah. I think there has been a bit of a turn back. I think that the government really needs to focus on those skills that AI isn't going to take away, those skills which give jobs that AI isn't going to take away.
Yeah, sure. Let's move on to farmers and talk about those before we hopefully get to Douglas. Lynn, in my opinion, farmers have been under attack throughout this last year, at least since the Labour government got into office. They're the backbone of our food supply in this country. Yeah. Do you think that the damage the Labour Party has done in government to farmers is recoverable, let's say, even if they're not here in the next election?
It's only recoverable if they come out and, retract some of the things that they've said they're going to do. As you said, I think they're the backbone. When we Brexited, we needed to look at agriculture more, and many people are not entering agriculture. So it's our food source. Why would you attack farmers?
Very briefly from you, Matthew.
So, yeah, look, I disagree with you on, I think, the big landowners tax rather than the family farm tax is one thing, but farmers certainly are the backbone of our national life, not just our food supply, but obviously what our countryside looks like, and they need looking after.
OK.
Right, well, Jeremy Clarkson has revealed parts of his farm will shut for 2 months due to a TB outbreak.
Yeah, Clarkson has clarified that the farm is still operational, but they cannot buy or sell any cows.
So just how worried should Britons be about bovine tuberculosis devastating our cattle supply?
Well, with us now is livestock farmer Douglas Turner. Douglas, farmers have been dealing with a lot this year. This latest outbreak will be quite another unwelcome shock to farmers. Tell us a little bit about how that's impacting farmers across the country.
Well, it's going to impact farmers because, of course, it's going to affect the way that we can move the cattle, and then we can have the cattle that's going into the food chain. We've suffered so much, and as Donald Trump said the other day, we should look after our farmers. Keir Starmer may be listening, but he's not taking any notice of it. And the other thing as well, before we've had mad cow, and now we have the Chancellor taking inheritance tax from us, where we shouldn't do. There seems to be so many things against the farmer. And the other thing that happens all the time, the farmer, we make food. We are growing food. Because we're small individuals, it's easy for them to pick on us all the time. They don't pick on the big corporates. They don't pick on the supermarkets, which actually screw us down on the prices all the time. And that makes it very difficult to make a profit. Yes. We farm because we enjoy it. We manage the countryside. We know the way things are happening. And unfortunately, you get the likes of Chris Packham that comes along that has really got no idea. We say he's the NFI, not the NFU. He's got no flipping idea all the time. And he says, we want to rewild, we want to do this. And because they think that the animals look cute and cuddly, they don't realise the devastation it causes to the animal. And it's really upsetting for farmers. The vegans always pick on us. Oh, yeah, you only have the animals and you kill them and you eat them. But that's the way life is. Yes. I never remember seeing in cave drawings people eating vegetables all the time. But the vegans try to make us want to do that. It's their choice. That's fine. Don't try to force it on us.
And Douglas, of course, the government would suggest and say to defend themselves, they've got to make tax cuts somewhere, and that actually maybe some farmers were taking advantage of inheritance tax, and of course would say when it comes to the environmental stuff, well, we need to grow the green economy. Do you believe that the government is actually perhaps being a little bit unfair to Keir Starmer?
No. They're all unfair to the farmers. That's why I was part of the team that got 1,400 tractors up in Whitehall. They may be listening. They're not taking any notice because they're not there for us and for the voters. We don't need to have these tax rises. They said there was that 22 billion black hole. Well, since he's been in power, how many billions he's given away to all other farmers, all other countries, for all other things? He's not looking after us. And at the end of the day, we, not just the farmers, but everybody else that works in the industry are paying the taxes, and he gives our money away. There's no need for that, but that's just the way that they are. They're trying to devastate farming. They want to stop us doing it because what's going to happen then, they think they can just import it or grow it in factories and different things. But it's not normal, it's not right, and it's not natural.
What else in terms of support specifically would you like to see from the government?
Well, they used to give us APR and BPR, which was all the tax breaks, because people say, why do you farm if you don't make a profit? We farm to be able to feed people. We have subsidies to be able to help us. At the moment, we've just finished a harvest. If I tell you, with our grain harvest, we're 60% down. So that means they're going to have to import more. If all countries were 60% down, there'd be nothing able to be imported all the time. Yeah. And then they say, oh, you know, but you're wasting the land because you're grazing the cattle. Those pieces of land that the cattle and the sheep graze on are not good enough to grow different things on there, but grass is on there. And you look, they want us to have factory farmed beef, and they say they can do this, they can do that. I question them totally. We can grow our meat, we can grow our cows and our sheep, and it costs nothing. Because you have air, you have light, and you have grass. Even when you see the grass, which is brown, and most people think it's dead, it's actually hibernated. It's dormant. It rains again, it comes back. It costs nothing then to do that, and it's got the natural goodness that our bodies need.
Douglas, let's just talk about this bovine TB outbreak. Of course, Jeremy Clarkson's probably one of the most famous farmers in the country now because of his TV show Diddley Squat. What sort of impact will this have on the farming industry?
Well, again, the TB is out there in different areas of the country. You have 6 months testing, you have 12 months testing, you have 4 yearly testing. It's because of the badger. People love to see the badgers, but the badgers may look cute and good, but while they're walking around and it's their urine, it's their feces, amongst other things, which actually spreading it. And also the testing they do on them is not 100% sure that they've all got it. They say they've got a reactor, and what they will then do, they will cull all of them. That's really not necessary. They could actually isolate them, and you could work on them. You could leave them to one side, maybe cull those, but leave the rest alone. But the vets come out, again, because they have the information given to them by people that live in towns and cities that write up the rules that have no real idea about it at all. And that's why Clarkson called his farm Diddley Squat, because that's the knowledge the people that write these product things about have.
Yeah, and Douglas, look, we've heard reports that we could be facing up to 6% of food inflation over the next, up towards Christmas. With this TB outbreak on farms, are we looking at actually a much more severe crisis than people are preparing themselves for?
No, not really, and they shouldn't call it food inflation. It's all the things that come towards the food being grown that's caused the inflation. Everything else, you look at the gas, the price, the electricity, and then we have Ed Miliband coming out with that wanted to have solar panels on ground where we should be growing crops, or we should be grazing on there at all. It will have some effect, but the media, and when I say the media, I don't mean the good channels like GBNews. The media are scaremongering people all the time to say, oh, it's food inflation and it's caused by the farmers. We are easy prey. It is not the farmers that are causing the problem. It's all the other things we have to take into consideration. And when we are forced, and we are, to use products that we don't want to use in the ground to make things grow, in the old days we used to do crop rotation. So you'd grow a root crop, you'd grow a cereal, you'd grow a grass, you'd then leave it and you'd plough back in all the muck that comes out of the different sheds that the animals are in. But then you get people in towns and offices and they're saying, oh, well, you can't do that, you can't do that, but we used to.
OK, Douglas Turner, farmer. Thank you so much for joining us, Douglas. I'm so sorry that farmers are suffering so much. You know, you are the backbone of this country, so thank you for doing what you do. You know, I just want to bring in, we've got, of course, here... Oh, that's not us. We're over there. We're on the sofas. There we are. Matthew and Lynn are still with us here. Matthew, during the time in opposition, Labour pledged to end badger culling. Badger spread TB. Have they shot themselves in the foot there? They said they've got to vaccinate badgers. With badger vaccination centres.
Yeah, look, I remember doing a report on this 15, 20 years ago, and it isn't an easy solution. People obviously have the view of the badger from the wind in the willows and think they're quite cute, but farmers think that they spread with TB. The issue is that the badger cull hasn't really worked, so I think we need a better solution because bovine TB, as we were just hearing there, is such a big issue, and we need to protect our cattle. So hopefully vaccination will work. I don't think you can say no to a cull just on, you know, on moral grounds, because what about the cattle who suffer?
Almost 22,000 cows were slaughtered in England and Wales last year, which is going to have a huge impact.
Yeah. Huge impact. All right, well, still to come, we'll be joined by Doogie Beattie, who is live in Portaferry for the Sea Shanty Festival. But first, here is your holiday forecast for our top European destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Whilst the UK gears up for Storm Floris, it turns increasingly hot in Portugal, although there'll be some heavy rain in Croatia and Italy, particularly the central part of Italy. Thunderstorms expected here, thunderstorms moving through parts of Croatia and Bosnia, but for much of Iberia it's sunny spells and increased heat. Higher temperatures than average for much of Portugal, and that's expected to continue into the start of next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Despite what Donald Trump's saying about ceasefires and whatever, reports have been coming out overnight about continuing missile attacks.
Well, British expat David Mason was caught up in those missile attacks on Friday when he and his son barely escaped with their lives after an Iranian missile exploded next to them in a bombing raid in northern Israel.
Let's speak to David, because David joins us now from his hospital bed, actually, to tell us about this terrifying ordeal. David, how are you?
I'm alive. I'm alive. That's one thing. Yeah. I'm alive.
How bad was it? A close call, was it?
It was very close. The missile hit about 25 feet away from us. God. It blew me completely. That's basically off my feet. And it was just dark and just blood everywhere, basically. I landed. As I woke up, there was a body. I was on top of a body which I thought was my son. And as I cleared all the debris away, I looked up and realized my son was standing there with a hole basically in his neck, shot. Oh. And, I basically went into father mode, as my other children said, dad mode, took my shirt off, wrapped it around his neck to make sure that he wasn't bleeding more. And then he turned to me and said, "But Dad, you're splurting blood from everywhere. My arms, my back, my head." And I said, "Don't worry about me."
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the
GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Saturday Morning Live with me, Tatiana Sanchez and Alex Armstrong. It's almost 12 o'clock. That's gone very quickly,
It has,
hasn't
hasn't it? Yeah, it has. Thanks for staying with us.
Right, well, next story, the final story, is Northern Ireland's first Sea Shanty Festival is back this year for 4 unforgettable days of maritime celebration, live music, cultural traditions and coastal fun.
Right,
we're joined by GB News reporter Dougie Beattie.
we are. Dougie, can you hear us? Dougie, come on.
Dougie.
Give us a sea shanty if you can hear us.
I can hear you.
There he is. There he is. We can see you now, Dougie.
Sea shanty. See all those viewers that you got? Yeah, you wouldn't have them anymore if I started singing. But nevertheless, the Vikings have arrived. Nearly 1,000 years after they were last here, this beautiful Viking boat has arrived at the festival, and we'll be speaking to the boys that control that in a minute or two. But on board is some sea shanty singers. One of them is Sandra. Sandra, where are you from? And tell us a little bit about your group.
OK, so we are all at sea. We come from Cumbria. We're not far from Kendal in the Lake District. We're used to a lake. We're used to Lake Windermere on our doorstep. This is our 3rd time in Ireland. In the last 3 years, we've been to Sligo. We met the Selkies, the local sea shanty group, and they invited us to this fantastic location for this weekend's festival.
Brilliant. We'll let you sing us out in a minute. We'll just go along here and talk to Sean. Sean, this boat, it is absolutely beautiful. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, we formed from a kinship with the Isle of Man. There's a similar group to ourselves in Peel, and as I say, they challenged us to a race across the Irish Sea in 1996, which we unfortunately lost. But because of it, then we formed our own boat society, and to say we've produced 2 boats in 98 and 99, and we raise money for charity, and we row, and we sail and row and shore boats across Ireland, England, Scotland. We've been to Norway, we've been to Spain, so we're going 30 years.
Brilliant. You'll maybe get that race and actually win. Steve, are you ready to take it away?
Aye.
OK, Steve, take it away.
Whip, jamboree, whip, jamboree, oh, you pigtail sailor, hanging down behind, whip, jamboree, whip, jamboree, oh, Jenny, get your oat cakes done, 2, 3, whip, jamboree, whip, jamboree, oh, you pigtail sailor, hanging down behind, whip, jamboree, whip, jamboree, oh, Jenny, get your oat cakes done.
Well, there you go. What a song. What a boat. The festival is now well underway, and we might try and actually persuade them to rerun that race with the Viking boats with the boys from the Isle of Man. Who knows? Might work. And GB News might be there to report on it.
About being on this channel, I guess, is we never know where you're going to be next. You're always somewhere unique and special, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day, isn't it, Dougie? I'm still disappointed we didn't get a little sea shanty song from you, but there we go. Well, thank you so much, Dougie, and thank you for everybody at home joining us on Saturday Morning Live today.
But don't go anywhere, as Dawn Neeson is up next with The Weekend. Dawn, what's coming up on your show?
Lined up for you, nearly as good as the one you've just done. Thank you very much, you two. We've got an exclusive interview with Kemi Badenoch, and we will be joining Ben Leo live from the latest Migrant hotel protest. And we're also asking, are you Welshist? After 2 girls were discriminated against from being from Wales. Cracking show, all of that coming up after the weather. Here are the details.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Lots of fine weather on offer through the course of this afternoon, some warm spells of sunshine too, but we do have Storm Floris on the way for Monday, so some potentially disruptive winds on the way. And ahead of that, we do have this weak weather front pushing southeastwards across the UK through tonight and into Sunday, so some rain as well for some of us before then too. But on Saturday afternoon, it's not going to be blue skies for everyone, but nonetheless, there will be some warm spells of sunshine, perhaps the best of which will be around some western coasts of England and Wales, and more especially across Scotland, where there should be plenty of sunshine. And in that sunshine, it should feel warmer than it did on Friday, highs of 20 to 24 degrees Celsius, so around average for the time of year, and winds also lighter too. Fairly fine into this evening as well, that cloud starting to melt away, particularly in the south, so some evening spells of sunshine in southern counties too, but still fairly large amounts of cloud. We'll run into more in the way of sunshine across parts of Wales, northern England and Scotland, so a fine evening to come here, still fairly pleasantly warm in that sunshine, temperatures in the teens Celsius as we begin the evening too. But out towards the west, we have got this frontal system pushing in to western parts of Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland. Associated with that will be some fairly heavy outbreaks of rain through later this evening and more especially overnight. That band of rain will push its way eastwards and southwards, introducing a more humid air mass, so lots of low cloud, hill fog developing, and again, still some heavier outbreaks of rain in places. Staying much drier though towards the south and the east of the UK, clear skies here and not as cold as it was last night, temperatures holding up into double figures for all of us. And a pretty mild and humid start to the day on Sunday, particularly across the west. Lots of low cloud around coast, outbreaks of rain pushing their way southeastwards across the UK. Still some heavier bursts in places, but the front weakening as it comes towards the south, so only showery rain